Ratayatra in Nova in 2025 ki jai. Ratayatra in Belheim 2025 ki jai. Yugadharma ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Buddhavata ki jai. Shishi Gunitai ki jai. Shishi Radha Punjabi ki jai. Shishi Jagannath Baladev Viswara ki jai. Shrinataji Gigo Baladev ki jai. Nantara Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai. Rupama
Haribo. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. What is the Shishi Guru? Satoshi Shrimad's Divine Grace, founder of Iskana Bhai Charanada Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship Shri Shriarakunja Bihari ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mahesabhadra ki, Shri Nathaji Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Shigonitai ki, Nitai Go Prema. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the Lord and Spirit of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Todayam Tiraya Nasta Praishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, text number 19. Wow, 2 pages up. Okay. Text 19. Yada Saranam Atmanam Yada Saranam Atmanam Aiksata Shranta Bhagnam Aiksata Shranta Bhagnam Ashtram Brahma Siro Mene Ashram Brahma Siro Mene Atma Tranam Dvijatmaja Atmatranam Dvijatmaja Yadashranam Atmanam Aiksata Shranta Bhajanam Ashtram Brahma Siromene Atmatranam Dvijatmanaja Yadasaranam Atmanam Yadasharanam Atmanam Aiksata Shranta Bhajanam Aikshita Shranta Bhajanam Astram Brahma Siromene Astram Brahma Siromene Atmatranam Dvijatmana Atmatranam Dvijatmaja Yada Sharanam Atmanam Aikshata Shranta Bhajinam Astram Brahma Siromene Atmatranam Dvijatmaja Yada Saranam Atmanam Akshata Shranta Bhajinam Astram Brahma Siromene Atmatranam Dvijatmaja Yada Aikshata Shrantamajinam. Astram Brahma Siromene. Astram Brahma Siromene. Atmatranam Dvijatmaja. Atmatranam Dvijatmaja. Yada. When. Asaranam. Without being alternatively protected. Atmanam, his own self. Aiksata, saw. Shrantavajinam, the horses being tired. Astram, weapon. Brahmasira, the topmost or ultimate. Nuclear. Mene, apply. Atmatranam, just to save himself. Dvija Atmaja, the son of a Brahman. Yadasaranam Atmanam, Aiksata Shrantavajinam, Astram Brahma Siro Mene Atmatranam Dvijatmaja. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When the son of the Brahman, Ashwatam, saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside of his using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra, nuclear weapon. Please repeat. When the son of the Brahman, Ashwatam, saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside of using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra, nuclear weapon. When the son of Brahman, Ashwatam, saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside of his using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra, nuclear weapon. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In the ultimate issue only, when there is no alternative, the nuclear weapon called the Brahmastra is applied. The word Dvija Maja is significant here because Ashwatam, although the son of Dronacharya, was not exactly a qualified Brahmin. The most intelligent man is called a Brahmin, and it is not a hereditary title. Ashwatam was also formerly called the Brahmabandhu, or the friend of a Brahmin. Being a friend of a Brahmin does not mean that one is a Brahmin by qualification. A friend or son of a Brahmin, when fully qualified, can be called a Brahmin and not otherwise. Since Ashwatam's decision is immature, he is purposely called here in the son of a Brahmin. Om Jnanatamrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshusu Malitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. This Brahmastra weapon was so powerful, it's compared to the equivalent of a nuclear weapon, like the atomic weapon. And there are different grades of atomic weapons in this present age. But an immature person who has no previous experience with anything, actually, they need a time to be trained. And Ashwatam evidently had not had enough training to be able in his mind to reason whether this Brahmastra weapon was really necessary at this point. So just the same way a few verses ago we see that immaturely and without regard whatsoever of the laws regarding the war, when he took the children of the Pandavas in their sleep, he took their lives in their sleep. I'm still looking for this. It's probably found in Mahabharata, because those children went to an abode that's preserved. It's the center, somewhere around the center of the universe. That's for very advanced souls. Because those souls that were being brought into this world by the Pandavas were exalted personalities. I'm going to find that out, because also there's an involvement with the ruler of the planet that they were sent to, and Krishna brings Arjuna there to rescue his sons, or the Pandava children. So we see the same thing happening as well, and this reveals to us the end result of people being put into positions that they're not qualified to hold. We saw the same thing happen in the movement after Srila Prabhupada left the planet. As long as Srila Prabhupada was here giving guidance, there was a point in which they actually wanted to kick Srila Prabhupada out of the movement. If that's not insane,
Crazy.
His own movement that he started.
Wow.
And see, this is the thing. This constant engagement that we have in chanting the holy names works into us a form of humility that can't be derived any other way. And so someone that thinks by seeing someone in the same human form as they are can think upon themselves, well, I can do that by seeing physically. But physical evidence, not necessarily proof within of the purification process that's required for one to become qualified, to hold that position, to be able to make mature decisions. And so a lot of times I saw myself in the movement with people in positions of leadership when someone who was of an equal nature might bring to their awareness things that were going on. Rather than take account for that and do something about it, they would turn anger towards the person finding the problems. In government, we have the same problem. There are protections for people they call whistleblowers. You know what a whistleblower is, right? If you're holding a government position, amongst many people who also hold high authority government positions, they can use their authoritative position against you, accusing you of things you didn't even do. And by having the power in this day and age, they can put you behind bars. And you didn't even do anything. This is what's going on right now. By people who are holding positions of authority, not qualified to hold those positions. So not only are they using their positions simply in opposition of each other. If somebody says, let's not fight this war, another person purposely, simply because this person said not to, this person will say, yeah, let's fight the war. This is the battle that's going on in Washington. They are opposing each other rather than working together to try to come to qualified conclusions with the combined efforts. They're supposed to be finding, as representatives of the people of the nation they're representing, common conclusions that can be for the welfare of everyone. And it's not to say that there's only one way of looking at things, but there needs to be controls, just like Ashwatam needed to be controlled. Now, we'll see, I'm not sure if it's brought out in here, later on in the war, Abhimanyu, Arjun's own son, he was only 16 years old. And he also, because they took part in this war, people that volunteered to become part of the war, were not necessarily all at the same advanced stages of development, maturely wise. So even Arjun's son, and when you read, if you read this in Mahabharata, it's like he's the hero. They're all now under the forces of Kali Yuga, revealing in their minds the forces of ignorance that are controlling the minds of these people who are engaged in this war, breaking all the laws that had been established, that were agreed upon by all the world, that these laws govern wars, and they were breaking them left and right. Abhimanyu, 16 years old, he knew how to break through the phalanx of the enemy, but he didn't know how to get out. So this is the problem. But with his own desire to surrender and believing that the way would be made, but they broke all the laws. As powerful as this young boy was, he was overcoming every single one of the top warriors, 16 years old. This is revealing what Srila Prabhupada said, purity is the force. And he was right, he was fighting for the right cause. But in their underhanded, purposeful breaking of these laws, they went ahead, broke his bow, broke his chariot, and then killed him also. And this is the result of people who are, see, even though he was also very young and not able, because of lack of knowledge, how to get out of that phalanx, it is revealing also the fact that they were breaking the laws, that they also, even though they were seemingly qualified, we may come to a point of qualification and later, by desire, we lose that qualification. If we break all the regulative principles and we no longer care for anything that's right and sacred, then we lose our qualification. So this is also revealing what position they're, which is why they're going to lose the battle. And so they were thinking of it as a victory. But someone like Dronacharya, who had Brahminical qualities, just like he was not satisfied, but see, even Dronacharya started breaking them himself when he was shooting at the bow of Abhimanyu. When you read, if you get a chance to read Mahabharata, it gives you a background of all the players of the war, so that it's not hidden from your mind why Krishna took part in killing the warriors the way they were killed. Because it was all preordained, and it was all an outcome of the accumulated karma. But it was a sacred war. So karma didn't have everything to do with it. It was Krishna's decision that ultimately brought the war to an end and caused the victors to be the ones who were fighting for the right cause. What we have now, Dave and I were talking yesterday, we have Jai Shri Radha Kamini Jai Jagannath Baladev Jai Shri Gurunta. We have an accumulation of karma that's been building. And when the leaders of the nations are not challenged or turned away from their evil ways, then the whole nation is led astray. So as a whole, the people in the country, then they lose their pious qualities. When the leaders, Krishna says, what a great man does, then people will follow the example of a great man. But if there are no great men, that's the problem. We don't have people knowing what the Dharma of the age is. And we have a practice of so-called piety that people are taking part in once a week. They go to church and they pray at home for their needs and their wants and their desires. But without knowing what the Dharma is, all of this is compared to fruitive activity. Because if we're only praying for ourselves and a prosperity of ourselves, and I want this and I want that, it's just an extension of the false ego.
Dharma's not in their vocabulary.
That's right, Dharma is not even in their vocabulary. So they have the word responsibility, but that's not even connected to God in most minds. So the purpose of human life is completely being neglected altogether. And they don't know the reason for their being brought into the world. They don't know that we all have a divine purpose in our lives to be able to enter into that eternal dwelling, which we can do by qualification. So the same way that this qualification is developed by surrender to the Guru, applying instructions given by the Guru, taking part in the everyday activities necessary for one to become pure, then we can hope at the end of this life that we will enter into that eternal dwelling. If we don't develop those characteristics and qualities necessary, we would not even be comfortable there. You might get there and then realize, oh my God, these people don't like me because of my own qualities, my own habits that I've developed. So this process, it's more than just a formality. It's a process necessary. And what happens with churches and people attending churches? Because the way it's being looked at in the world, it's an alternative to secular society. It's like you can go if you want to, you go if you don't have to, if you don't want to. And you get the same result. Everybody feels like, well, some people are living a life, looks like they get more prosperity than others. Some people stay sick, some people stay healthy, some people this and that and the other thing. But no realization of God controlling everything. And at one time, when I was a kid, there was a general consensus amongst the general population of people that God was pretty much in control of everything. And our surrender was like determining whether we had hardships in life or whether we had an easy life, so to speak, a life that we could prosperously take part in, and we could use our senses to be of benefit to other living entities as well and get rewarded for doing that. But that whole system in society now, with the empowerment of the false ego, that people are finding the ability to develop above and beyond spiritual consciousness, because spiritual consciousness is being looked at as a weakness. Mm-hmm. We talk about qualities that spiritual people have. They exercise mercy, they exercise patience, kindness, generosity, giving nature. These things are looked at as weaknesses. in a sense, in society by the overall majority of people. So this is because false ego is now ruling the societies at large, for the most part, the whole world. They're looking at the ability to manifest in the form of the false ego, the ability to accumulate wealth, the ability to do things in this world in a way to express control, management, perfection, all these kinds of things which the soul would normally be able to manifest as good qualities if they're not being used for the service of spirituality, for the service of humankind at large to make spiritual advancement. They're only going to dig people's graves deeper and deeper into the bondage of birth, death, old age, and disease. So it is up to us, and the opportunity being given to us today, 4th of July, celebration of so-called independence. Isn't that what we want? Independence. I want to be free to do whatever I want. That's called independence. But we know this is a false concept. Dependence upon Krishna is what brings independence from the control of the material energy. So most people would think surrender in and of itself is a weakness. They're saying, well, I have to surrender to somebody else's will. That makes me weak. That makes me a slave. That makes me a servant of somebody else. That's not what I want to be. I want to be the king. I want to be the ruler. And so, with these desires we develop for pleasure, for happiness, for kingdoms in this world to enjoy, comes the kind of selfishness manifesting itself in the world I, me, and mine. And it reveals itself in every aspect of our lives now. Just to have a means to get to work. Let's say a man has to drive 20 miles to get to work. It used to be when 92, 93, 94% of the population was engaged in agriculture, to get to work, you walk out to your backyard and start to plow. You get your horse or your ass or your bull, whatever you're using to plow the crop, and then you're at work already. But now, just to have that car, you have to pay for the fact that there are so many thousands of people out there unqualified to use their body to drive the car because they don't know how to drive it without getting into a wreck. So there's so many wrecks. I remember back in the 60s, back in the 50s and 60s, when I was a kid, there was no such thing as no fault. People actually were found guilty if they were responsible for the action. But what it is, just like the production and the manufacture of materials, one company will make 4 different products and then set it up as 4 different companies competing against each other. And they even do advertisements like that. Which one's better? But it's all the same company. Insurance companies, all being backed by the same money fund, they realized all this time spent to pay lawyers, to pay the insurance agents, to fight in the courts against each other was being paid for by the same funds. So why hold somebody accountable for the wrongdoing? There is no fault. Now the insurance company pays for it, and then both participants have their rates raised.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My wife just had an accident and our insurance went up. It was already $350 a month.
Oh my God. See?
And it went up.
Yeah.
$25 a month.
Yeah. See, so
$375 a month.
it is by the wrongdoing of those who are irresponsible that the responsible people of society are paying into their irresponsibilities. The innocent being charged at the neglect of the guilty. And the whole legal system, because of this kind of thing going on, it's upset. And people become disgruntled by that. I'm sure your wife's not happy about that. So it makes society disturbed. It's a disturbance to society. When the temple was first opened, devotees in their devotional minds had intent on helping the whole neighborhood. So we go to the neighborhood and pick flowers from the gardens of the neighborhood. When they don't know, go there when the stars are still in the sky, so you know. And what happens? When they find out, then they consider you a thief. Then you become a disturbance to society. Even though you had intended in your heart to become, then we become thought of as thieves. Okay. Even though we want to do something for Krishna.
Right.
So this is the mentality we have to realize. We have to develop mature perspective and to do things the way Krishna wants it to be done. So this whole event, many of these events being revealed to us, are revealing us the need for ourselves to become qualified so that we don't misrepresent what Krishna wants represented from us. And it's the same way with every other religion. They are making statements about God, not necessarily true. And so how does that affect God? With the disturbances being caused into the minds of people by so-called, recognized by society, so-called spiritual leaders, preachers, who are putting imaginary concepts into people's mind about the nature of God. And this is the real. This is the real, because see, if there were as many really spiritually inspired preachers as there are churches having people in the pulpits, these cities would be places of peace. These places would be oases. We would be hearing hymnals. We would be hearing church bells going every day. We used to hear church bells would sound at noon. There would be 12 bells. Almost every city, you go into, it was like that. Yeah, isn't it? But over the years, because they have misconceptions about God, people now, they reject God. They reject the concepts being portrayed by people about God. That's why it's so important for devotees, because we have the true view. We have the perspective to be able to give them the real knowledge, the real freedom that God gives to us to give to them. So this opportunity that we have today to go out, and I'm hoping myself also to join the devotees, we can make a meeting place somewhere downtown and then chant to our heart's delight and bring everybody the joy and happiness we have found in Krishna consciousness of having become free from the bonds of birth, death, old age, and disease. Now, to be able to bring to life all those souls that are living, walking as, what do they call them, zombies? Zombies. Walking bodies without life that have no knowledge whatsoever of the freeing, the real independence. We want to bring the true independence, not from some country in this world, but the actual bonds of karma itself to free them from. That's what the real freedom is. Because as the United States was believing itself to become free from the control of the English rulers are still, and they who were believing themselves to become free, are still bound by the laws of karma. So they're not really free, and they're not really independent. And they don't know what independence is if they think they are. Living a lie. Think about it. Even people practicing spirituality, to a great extent, are living a lie by not knowing the completeness of God's love for humanity, the completeness of God's love for the spiritual life that every soul is. His own breath, Krishna's own breath is what the souls are. And we as devotees are the only ones that I've seen. I don't know of any other paths that are preaching like this. They think dogs are not souls. Their Lord, they don't have a soul, they say. They don't have a soul. See, even this concept of having a soul gives the suggestion that the soul is separate from the being.
So therefore they're not spiritual. Because if you believe in the soul, that means you're a spiritual person. They're not spiritual, they're just religious.
But see, even the concept, when you speak of soul, it is looked at by the majority of people as something that the human being has in its possession. Not that he is, although you can say, because we have the statement that's commonly accepted as normal, my soul. Isn't it?
My soul.
This is totally contradictory to the reality of what the soul is. We are the soul.
Yeah.
We are. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So if I am the soul, how can I think of myself as owning something as a soul, as something that I am? So we think of it like, and we make comparisons with a person in a car. Whereas if you're driving a car, you're the driver of the car, right? You recognize yourself as something separate from the car. But most of the people are thinking of themselves as the body that is in possession of something called the soul, that's kind of like, you can use it if you want, or you don't have to if you don't want to, it's just there to claim as a being. But this is really insane self-consciousness. It's consciousness of the self contrary to the reality of the self. So this is why Srila Prabhupada brings to reality the meaning of self-realization. Because people are not even aware. People want to talk about knowing God without knowing what they are, or who they are, or their purpose in life. It's 10 to 9. I usually leave room for questions. If I don't, then I get told that I didn't leave any room for questions. And then when I do, I cut short the class because nobody asked questions. So hopefully I've answered questions, but hopefully somebody has some questions. Maybe some realizations would be nice to hear.
Some comment.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, you talk about a lot of good points. Very nice, very beautiful. Like you say, when we go outside, about the Hainam, the preaching, it's very beautiful. There's something I realize, my mind to go to Hainam, we have to have beer lot. No, we don't have beer lot.
I know.
No,
You and
I
I remember you and I went out.
Yeah, I know.
I do that with lots of devotees. We go out, just two of us.
Yeah.
It's all that's required.
Yeah. I haven't do that for so long, and I did recently, and I did it was so nice. I went by myself. I don't know why I bike. I was ready to downtown. I was doing my, with the drum you gave me, and I got my speaker. No, I got the speaker, and I was playing with it. I was doing it. That's when the people was dancing. This little kid, they was dancing. And the second time I went with Dominic, I went with the microphone, everything. People love it, and I feel so much happiness, so much joy, and I always feel like because, like they say in the Shastakam,
He has empowered all his spiritual energy.
Yes, so I was so happy, and people was happy. I said I did something, or we do something Shrimadbhagavatam want us to do.
Yeah.
Because like I was explaining, temple life is nice. It's nice, but it's for neophyte. Neophyte. Shrimadbhagavatam is not me. Temple life is for neophyte, or not only for neophyte, but it's for to maintain. You got to maintain this place because when people want to come, it's good to have some devotee. But the highest service is preaching. Yeah. You see, all this prophet, he was not living in the temple. They were not living in church. Yeah. They was out. Jesus Christ, you know. But temple life is good when you start in your training. But after when you get all this purification, all this mercy, all this gift, so good to give it to others. If you don't give it, you can all the time be moody.
That's what Paribrajacharya, that's Paribrajacharya.
Yes.
Preaching all over the world.
Yes. And I feel that. When I don't preach, I always get into fighting with devotee. I'm very morose. I don't always find negativities. No, go to Bishop side. Go to some place where they get to teach you how to be humble. Because the temple life is easy. Living in the temple is easy. Everybody's good thing, you're very nice. But go outside, you can see Maya, people can look at you like nothing. Even a go outside, they treat me bad. That's why you develop humility. Yeah. But in the temple, you don't develop. Living in the temple, you don't develop humility. I see that many times. Some do it after many years, they do the deity service, but the humility is not here. They still inconsiderate. They see only Krishna in the deity, but they don't see Krishna outside. They don't see Krishna in his devotee's heart. They don't see Krishna in the black gold. Yeah. It's the only. I don't want to. Come on. So that means, how you call that? Smarta. Only Krishna from the deities. No. You got to see outside. You got to see Krishna in a high enough. Yeah. And when you see that, that's when you advance. You advance. You can make a lot of spiritual and you always happy. I try that, and I feel so happy every day because every morning, how it starts, I'm sorry to take over. How it starts every morning, wake up in the morning, 3, 4 o'clock, chant your one with Shrimadbhagavatam. Don't chant your one with yourself because your mind will not pure. Chant with Shrimadbhagavatam. If we try to chant, our mind is spaced. Put Shrimadbhagavatam chanting with you. I do that. I've been doing that many years. So much joy.
When I was in Arizona, I would go to the park, have Bhagavad Gita, and just start reciting Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
What it is, Krishna reciprocates, and whatever pleasure you get, wherever you are, as an individual, when you give it to somebody else, that experience of happiness is multiplied by as many souls as there are that you're giving it to. Like Korsana is saying, when you give it to people, it's multiplied. Because what is happening, the first time you ever heard about Krishna, the first time your mind was ever opened up to the awareness and you started inquiring, you're bringing those souls to that point. And super soul in them, the same super soul person who is sharing this body with you is the same super soul in that person being made happy by the fact that you are bringing that soul, now the name that super soul has brought them there to hear. So just imagine, it's multiplying by every soul that's hearing, every ear that's hearing. It's multiplying. That super soul in them is taking pleasure in your giving. So that's why a devotee is never in a minority. You can never be in a minority. Because if you are preaching to a non-believer, there is you, the soul. There is Krishna in you, the super soul. And in the other person you're talking to, there is them and super soul, which means 3 against 1. And just keep adding that to the bigger the crowd. Because super soul, the super soul that we are serving is the same Krishna we're serving, is the same one in the body of the one you're preaching to. So you're never in the minority anymore. Can't be a minority. Yeah. You are with Krishna now. He's the biggest. Yeah.
If a mother, she's a mother, she get content to have a husband. No kids. How can they multiply? You know, that's how the Christian devotee is supposed to multiply.
Yeah.
They're supposed to
exactly.
be only.
These are our children. The souls we speak to, that we give Krishna to, these are our children.
Yes.
And actually, we are involved in the procreation process by this means. We have to take it seriously enough to be able to continue giving these people regularly when they come. Yes. There's a thing that COVID messed up really bad. Yeah. They restrict people from gathering in groups and these kinds of things, when these are the very things that spiritual people live for.
That's how we could see how strong was our faith. I see some spiritual people, they was under this line, this control mind of COVID.
Yeah.
People was so-called spiritual.
Yeah.
Look at that, where's your faith? That you might be the Bible.
And the problem is devotees develop the same mentality towards the so-called officials of the world. But when they don't have any connection whatsoever with God, there are going to be decisions they make that are not right for humanity at large. And as devotees, if we don't have the means to be able to discern, this is why a necessary discipline of becoming mature in our perspective of these things. Yeah, what were you going to say then?
What was Sunday gathering like during COVID?
Say that again?
During COVID, what was Sunday gathering like? Was there anyone here?
I don't know. I stayed myself.
Oh, you stayed to yourself?
Yeah,
I stayed myself.
Sunday, it was... Yeah.
When I lived in that cave, see, there's certain, how can you say, principles about renunciation that includes remaining aloof from the rest of society. We don't go out there to take something from them. We're going out there to give them something.
Yeah.
And if our mind is that we need them, we're going to be getting what they're having to give. They don't have anything to give except the bonds and the lack of knowledge of God, of love of God. And so if we follow their same methods, we follow their same procedures, their same mentality in their minds of right and wrong, we will fall into the same ditch they're falling into. Christ said, if the blind lead the blind, they'll both fall in the ditch. And that's what's happening. People are living in the ditch, falling into the ditch, blind leading the blind.
You know, our last meeting during the COVID, I don't criticize, I'm not against the spiritual people who was scared. I don't criticize them. I understand them. Because you know why? You know why I understand them? Because they were scared of death.
Scared of death, yes.
But if you're a spiritual person, why you have fear of death? Because death is not the problem. So why would you do it? If you do bhakti, don't worry, death is Krishna. So if you say, I believe in Krishna, I love Krishna, and when Krishna comes in the form of death,
yeah, right. Yeah.
You're a pretender, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Duh.
See, here's another thing too about this blindness. They accredit justice with, they call it blind justice. Now here's what they do. They twist this around. They make blindness to be a good quality because without one's eyes, one cannot judge according to one's skin color or one's culture or whatever. So they think that blindness is the only way to not be prejudiced, right? Which is ridiculous. This is our whole process that we are being given, is to take away this prejudice that we have in our minds, not only of one another, but of all life, birds, bees, trees, animals, everything. And so the real blindness is they're thinking they have to be blind in order to be able to see rightly. Justice is not blind. God is justice, and he sees everything from all sides. There are more than we can see ourselves. But see, this in and of itself speaks to the fact that they don't know they're blind. Because they're striving in their highest forms of legislation, they're striving to become blind. Which to them means unprejudiced. And we want our eyes opened to become fully aware of life. And that's what we see as making us unprejudiced, because when we can see the soul in the fish, then we have proper vision. We can see that fish is just potentially the same amount as value in its existence as mine. But I have come a little farther on the state, but I can fall right back into that same stage right again just by committing offenses. I'm not much far from that.
I love that, but I think you said that blind. Blind people relay in blindness. So even you see some spiritual people, they was controlled by blind leaders. Come on, these people are blind.
Yeah.
We are the one who can give them the light.
Yeah.
But we were skating under them.
Yeah.
Is that why that's something, Krishna inspired me and other devotees to see that was cheated. Because she was saying to the same people about the thing about COVID, to not killing because they want it. Oh, I don't want that. But they want us surrender to the light.
See, here's another thing. This prejudiced perspective is so powerful, it will keep a person from even being able to communicate with the person. Before they even see a person, before they even talk to a person, they have concluded in their mind what kind of person they are, right? That's what prejudice does. So it could be the very person that could set them free from their blindness that they are closing themselves off from as well. So it's so powerful a force, this prejudice. And this,
Misjudging.
yeah. What other word can we use to describe what people hold, prejudging in their minds, just like not reading the book, but just looking at the cover of the book and determining you know what it says already. Right? This is what this is. And it's crazy. It's a form of insanity.
By his cover.
Yeah.
By your opinion.
Yeah. And there's no knowledge in it to be gained whatsoever. And it's an extension of the false ego. I'm better than you are. That's the false ego. I, me, and mine. And I have to make my, me, and mine better than anybody else's. That's just crazy nonsense. Any other comments? Any other questions? Yes?
There was just, I was on Facebook the other day, and there's been this new discovery in India. 5,000-year-old radioactive human remains.
Oh, wow. Here you go.
Brahmastra.
That's from Brahmastra. That's exactly,
Yes.
that we're talking about.
Discovered 5,000-year-old radioactive human remains.
Wow. See, they have as well online. It may be 10,000 years old. A little pot about this big with a wire like that produces energy. heat from electricity. And it's in a murti form of a deity holding, a deity holding a murti form. Yeah, holding this generator of electricity. It was a battery. Electricity is it's a battery, basically.
Well, there's also another thing that's really interesting. In Ethiopia, there is this chapel that supposedly holds the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
The priests that guard the thing live for 2 years after they start service, and they die.
What you mean?
That means that they're serving the Ark of the Covenant, guarding it in its temple for 2 years, and it kills them. And the only thing they could get out of them is one of the priests said it was a thing of light. So there is something nuclear reactive about the Ark of the Covenant.
See what this may be as well. What this may be as well. Because it's described in the Bible. The priest would go into the holiest of holiest places. If he had committed sin, he wouldn't come out. He'd have to drag his body out. And see, Krishna has a limitation as well about how much offenses he will accept. He was counting, who was it? Dhritarashtra, who was speaking offenses against Krishna in the council. And Krishna was counting because he had promised his mother he would let us. Shishupal. That he had promised his mother he would let him make 100 and some offenses, right? And he was counting. Okay, I'll give you that many. So this reveals Krishna has a limit also. You can commit offenses, but see, if they're both acting the same way, if they're all acting the same way, they both reach the amount allowed, and then boom, they're done. So this is another way of looking at that. Now here's another way of looking at the same thing, which is practically the opposite. Because see, too, we also get absorbed in spirituality to the extent that the devotee, he can leave his body and you won't even know where he is. He's gone. This happens. And Lord Chaitanya entered into the deity form. So you can just be so absorbed in love of God that it consumes you also from that way. So they can either become most advanced to where God just takes them, or they become so degraded and so blasphemous that God takes them. So both things can be happening. And see, if we judge prematurely in our minds, I could say, oh, that's because he's sinning, you know, which might be a valid perspective to take because some scriptures reveal that, but I don't know the individual. And this is the same revealing also the significant way Srila Prabhupada dealt with offenses. He didn't name names. He spoke on principle, because as soon as you name a name, you're declaring that that person's the only one. But when you name by principle, you are including every single soul that is engaging in that activity. So that covers the whole broad spectrum of everybody engaging it without naming one person. Because for the most part, there's not one person committing one particular kind of sin in this planet. So many people are committing the same atrocities, and it being looked at as normal activity. Kind of sad. Any other comments? Well, this is what I really love, because this brings us more together. The sharing of realizations with each other, you know, that we get. Yeah.
Confidential.
Yeah. This is the confidential information that devotees have with each other. Granthara Shrimadbhagavatam, ki jai, Srila Prabhupada, ki jai.
So you were talking about chanting with Srila Prabhupada?
Yeah.